to take this opportunity. The weather's broke for us. Most of our April snow has melted away, and I want to show you guys how we shape our beds. So I'm going to actually take our potato garden, which we don't do in beds. So it's open ground that has never had a bed shaped on it before. So this would be similar to what you're working with a freshly tilled garden. Hopefully you look at this as the last time you rototill your gardens ever. So we're going to take a freshly worked area and we're going to shape our first time beds in it. So that'll give you an idea what I'm talking about going into it. All of our other beds are permanently done. We've been using the same beds for years. This will give you an idea how to build a bed from start. Not very many tools. First thing we do, like I was talking about, is we tarp it. So this has been under tarp since we cropped everything out last fall. Like I said, that way we don't let any weeds or anything grow on it. And the other part is when it's covered either by weeds or by a tarping method, the ground stays much more mellow. And with the ground staying mellow, we don't have that hard clay impaction that we have to go rototill every year. So covering it with weeds, which isn't very fun, or covering it with a tarp helps keep the ground mellow. So we're gonna pull back the tarp. Hazel, are you helping? Are you helping, Hazel? Yes? All right. We're gonna pull back the tarp. We're gonna see what this looks like. Last time this was tarped in October, so it hasn't been exposed since. So let's see what it looks like. So as you can see, it's very clean, it's weed free, and because it's been like this, it's good and mellow. I can easily dig 8-10 inches down. So by keeping it covered, it allows that to stay mellow. So first thing we need to do is measure things out. This is a landscaper rake, or we call them bed rakes. This is what we use for a measuring tool. This is 30 inches wide. Remember, we were talking about that 30-inch bed. So this is 30 inches wide. So the first thing we'll do is just set a line of measurement with this. That's going to be the shape of our bed. Secondly, this is called a broad fork. Very heavy tined fork. This is all the more tilling that we usually do. So we don't turn it over, we just fracture the ground. We don't want to break up the soil structure that's been built up over time. That's it. We're done tilling. So at this point, first time garden beds, I'm going to tell you to put 3 or 4 inches of compost on your beds. Beds that are set up, you're just going to add 1 inch or so of fresh compost each year. But by adding 3 or 4 inches of compost is going to help with those weeds. So we're just going to top dress this, because this gets compost added every year. First time beds. First time beds, you're going to add 3 times this much. Now we're starting to build those 12-inch walkways. So I'm a little light on the compost. I would even bed more on this bed if it was mine. So first time, you're going to want 2 to 3 inches if you can get your hands on it. So there is a 30-inch row made by our rake. Now for me, as we start prepping our other beds in the garden, right now is where I would leave it because we're not ready to crop it, and I would just pull the tarp back over. It's ready to go. But I want to fast forward this so you guys are ahead of the game, and now we're going to add the weed mat. So say this bed was getting ready to be planted today. You've shaped it, you've formed it, you've got your 30-inch bed. Now we don't want any weeds. You could just plant in this, but then we're still dealing with the weeds. We want to weed mat it. Hazel Ann, you're not helping. Remember, I spoke of 36-inch weed mat. Now with the remainder of your loose soil on your row, you're going to go teeth side up and just drag and flip some dirt right on the edge of that. Don't worry about it not being tight and taut right now. We're going to fix that. You can see why I like the 30-inch beds. It's easy to work over. You can straddle it. Now you have a bed that's ready to withstand weeds. So now we have our bed. What are we going to plant in it? Well, that all depends. This is where it comes down to the rows in your beds. Say we're going to do green beans. We're going to make either a cut, or I like to use a small butane torch and just burn a hole as you go. You can eyeball this. Little practice, it's not too bad. It's gardening. There's not exact measurements and science to it. Just get it in the soil. Or you can use a razor knife and cut small X's. The tough part about that is it tends to want to pull and drag on your weed mat. So I suggest you push it down to make your X cut. So if we're going to do beans on a 30-inch bed, we're going to plant them not one down the center, we're going to do 2 rows. And we're going to do 2 rows, we're going to split the difference, and we're going to make those beans about 15 inches apart. The thing about it though is we're going to stagger them so the bushes can grow into each other. So instead of going 2, 2, 2, 2, we'll stagger them. So it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. We'll do that motion. Then we can run one drip line down the middle and feed both rows. So I would rather use a butane torch myself, and I would go along and I would just gas a hole alternating back and forth. If you're going to raise something like cabbage that gets pretty big, we're just going to do 1 row right down the center. If we're going to do squash or zucchini, again, a large plant, we're just going to go 1 hole down the center. If I were to do zucchini, I would do a hole about every 4 feet in a row like this. Squash, same thing. Also, great way to grow cucumbers. Same method. Multi-row, lettuce, spinach, same thing. Just burn those holes 3 or 4 rows and stagger them. 5 rows if you have really good established gardens, but at first, since we've kind of crunched them up a little bit, we only have about 25 inches of growing space. Let's make 3 rows and stagger them like a 5-sided dice. 1 here, and then 1 here. 1 here, and then 1 here. For growing your lettuce and greens. Spinach, kale, salad mixes can all be done like that. Squash, zucchini, cucumbers, let them spread out a little bit. But this gives you an idea on what you need to do to build a bed. Now we've shaped this bed, and this is our walkway. So our next row, if we were to build a next row from here, would be right here. So we could start shaping that. Get rid of the pine cones. There's our second, Hazel May, there's our second 30-inch row bed with a 1-foot walkway. If you set your gardens up like this spring and tend to your gardens 12 months out of the year, each spring isn't a complete redo in building new garden beds. Reuse this garden bed year after year after year. This is our potato patch, which we will weed mat it, but we don't build them as such in rows. We'll just stagger the weed mat and we'll have 1 row of potatoes down each one of these. So we don't necessarily keep it in the exact established row. Why not? I don't know. We could. We just never have here. The other 1/4 of this bed is where all of our onion starts go. Same thing. We will weed mat that and we will just poke holes in it and then put our onion starts down in each hole. This whole bed will be covered in weed mat. This is why I recommend the 36-inch weed mat, as cheap as can be, because you're only going to get a year out of it. You only want a year out of it. You won't be able to line up the holes year after year. You can try, but even by the end of the year, this is starting to degrade some. So 300-foot roll of this, 36 inches wide. Last time I checked on Amazon was, I think you could get it for under $40. So that is a lot of garden protection for 40 bucks. I think that's a lot of save time weeding for 40 bucks. So anyhow, hope you found this enjoyable. Like it if you do, comment if you would like, and also hit that subscribe button to see more of these coming. But this is the quick and easy way to make a garden row bed weed-free, mulchable to be able to retain moisture and grow your plants as well as we can. I hope you would find that as enjoyable as I did. If you have any questions, please drop them down in the comments. I'll make sure I will check those and answer those for you. You guys have a great rest of your day. I'm going to keep making beds.